The Galactic Records Division had seen it all. At least, that's what they believed. For thousands of years, they had catalogued every predator, every hunter, every species that ever bared its fangs at the stars. Each one was carefully named, classified, and placed neatly into the grand order of the Federation. The Renders, the Devourers, the Breakers. Every danger had a name. Every chaos had a pattern. Until the day a message arrived from a quiet mining colony at the edge of nowhere, Outpost K-47. The message was short. Just 2 words. Send help. When the investigative shuttle landed, only silence greeted them. No guards. No miners. No sounds. Just the cold whisper of wind cutting through metallic ruins. 3 officers from the Classification Bureau stepped out, their biolights glowing faintly along their spines. Larek, Tuvin, and Saris. Each of them had named predators before. Each thought they were ready for anything. They were wrong. The first signs of struggle appeared near the mess hall. Deep claw marks carved into steel walls, tables overturned, blood spattered in long arcs. But there were no bodies. No movement. No heat signatures. What could do this? Saris whispered, scanning the floor. Her voice trembled despite her training. Nothing in the registry, Tuvin replied. Unless, he paused, glancing at the readings flickering on his wrist. Unless it wasn't an animal. Larek crouched beside a shattered crate, his blue light flickering over the floor. Among the debris lay something strange, a human tool. A spoon. The others stared. It was bent out of shape, smeared with blood, and something darker. What kind of creature kills with this? Saris murmured. Larek didn't answer. He followed the trail deeper into the hallway until they reached the control center. The lights flickered weakly, the air thick with the metallic tang of death. There, finally, they found the bodies, 6 of them. All reptilian mercenaries. Strong, armored, built for war. Each one had been killed differently. One was strangled with his own belt. Another had a broken jaw, forced open with a metal pipe. 2 more lay near a shattered terminal, their necks twisted at impossible angles. The last 2, shot cleanly between the eyes, using their own weapons. But there were no human casualties. None. Tuvin swallowed hard. This isn't random. Someone did this with intent. Saris checked the colony logs. There were 20 miners here. 19 unarmed. 1 human security contractor. Name, Elias Grain. Larek's throat went dry. And where is he? That question hung in the air like a curse. They found him hours later, outside the colony walls. Sitting quietly beside a campfire made from wreckage. His hands were clean. His expression calm. The night winds howled around him, and still he didn't move until they spoke. Elias Grain, Larek said. You are being questioned under Federation law. What happened here? The human looked up, eyes reflecting the firelight, steady, unafraid. They came for the miners, he said softly. Wanted to sell them off-world. I stopped them. You stopped 6 armed mercenaries? Tuvin's voice shook between disbelief and fear. Elias shrugged. 7, actually. 1 ran. He won't go far. Saris stepped closer. You killed them all. What? The human's gaze didn't waver. Because they were monsters. Then, after a pause, he added, and I've seen worse. Silence. The kind that made even stars seem to hold their breath. Larek finally spoke. The Federation will classify this. It's what we do. Every species that kills, we give them a name. Something that fits the pattern. Elias looked at him for a long moment, then smiled faintly. Good luck with that. He stood, picked up a battered travel pack, and walked toward the horizon where the twin suns were beginning to rise. Behind him, the outpost lay in ruins, half ash, half legend. Tuvin whispered, almost to himself, so, what do we call them? Larek didn't answer. He only watched the fading silhouette of the human vanish into the dawn. In that moment, he realized something terrible. Maybe some things shouldn't have names at all. Larek couldn't sleep that night. The firelight from the humans' camp still burned in his memory. Elias Grain, calm, silent, unreadable. Every other predator they'd studied had one thing in common: hunger, the need to dominate, to feed, to prove superiority. But this man, he didn't kill for pleasure or power. He killed because he decided to. And that decision was more terrifying than any fanged monster. By morning, the outpost was crawling with Federation drones. Bodies were scanned. Weapons were catalogued. Every datapad, every trace of the massacre went into the official record. But one thing didn't make sense: the human's vital readings. Heart rate steady, Saris said, staring at the results on her pad. No signs of combat shock, no adrenaline spike, no trauma reaction. It's like he wasn't even stressed. Tuvin frowned. That's impossible. 6 mercenaries, hand to hand, and his body shows no signs of strain. He trained for it, Larek muttered. Maybe on his homeworld they prepare for this kind of thing. Tuvin scoffed. Prepare to fight monsters? No one trains for that. They were still arguing when a small beep came from Saris's console. A communication file had been recovered, an audio log, timestamped just before the killings began. She hesitated, then pressed play. Recording start, Elias Grain. They took the miners. I warned them not to. I told them the galaxy isn't kind to people who think humans are weak. But they laughed. Everyone laughs, until we stop smiling. Static. If this message survives me, tell whoever finds it. This wasn't revenge. It was a reminder. And log. Silence followed. The team exchanged uneasy glances. Reminder, Saris repeated. Reminder of what? Larek's voice was barely a whisper. Of what they are. That phrase settled over them like dust. What they are. Not killers. Not hunters. Something else, something older. The next day, they traced the humans' route through the desert. The planet's twin suns baked the ground into glassy ridges and wind cut like knives. Yet the human footprints never faltered. No signs of rest. No hesitation. Just a steady march toward the horizon. After several kilometers, they found what he left behind. A camp built for survivors. The missing miners were there, alive and unharmed. They ran to the Federation team, shouting thanks and fear all at once. He saved us, one miner cried. He fought them all, then helped us bury the dead. But he left before sunrise. Said, we'd be safe now. Did he say where he was going? Larek asked. The miner nodded. He said he had to report to someone who still remembers what humans used to be. Tuvin frowned. What does that even mean? No one answered. But deep inside, Larek felt the first stirrings of dread. Humans were not supposed to have myths anymore. They were supposed to be modern, civilized members of the Federation's lower worlds. Yet this one spoke like a warrior from another age, the kind that legends whispered about before there were stars. When they returned to their ship, the report was already being compiled. Federation Command wanted results. A species name. But for the first time in his career, Larek hesitated to write anything. Every title that came to mind, the Ruthless, the Deciders, the Vengeful, felt wrong. Too small. Too simple. He deleted them all. That night, he stood by the viewport, watching the planet shrink below. Saris joined him quietly. You're thinking about him, she said. Larek nodded. He didn't fight like a beast. He fought like a teacher punishing a lesson long forgotten. Do you think the Federation will understand that? He smiled sadly. No. And that's the problem. Outside, the stars burned bright, countless and cold. Somewhere among them, Elias Grain was walking toward whatever waited next, and Larek knew that when they met humans again, it wouldn't be by accident. Because humans didn't just survive. They made sure everyone remembered why they did. The report should have ended there. But it didn't. Weeks after leaving Outpost K-47, Larek's team was summoned to the Capital Archives on Neural Prime, the Federation's heart of history. Endless corridors of light stretched in every direction, glowing with data from 1,000 worlds. Here, every predator, every weapon, every act of violence was recorded and studied. The director of the archives, an old crystalline being named Varen, greeted them with a flicker of annoyance. You three stirred up quite the noise, he said, his voice like cracking glass. Command wants answers. The Council fears humanity may not fit inside our structure. That's because they don't, Larek said quietly. We've seen what one human can do. It wasn't instinct. It was memory. Varen's facets dimmed. Memory. Larek placed the recovered audio log on the table. Elias Grain's words echoed through the hall. This wasn't revenge. It was a reminder. When the sound faded, silence lingered like smoke. Saris finally spoke. He didn't fight like someone acting on training. It was something deeper, like he carried generations of violence in his blood. Tuvin nodded. Every move, every strike, deliberate, efficient, as if he'd seen it all before. Varen studied them, his form flickering. You believe humans inherit battle memory? We believe they inherit purpose, Larek replied. A purpose even they might have forgotten. The archivist stared for a long time, then turned to one of his aides. Bring up historical files. Earth Origin Series, Pre-Federation Conflicts. The room darkened. Holograms flickered to life. Images of ancient humans fighting wars across their blue planet. Swords, spears, guns, machines of iron. Then came the Great Wars, entire cities burning, skies blackened by smoke. Yet again and again, they rebuilt. Every defeat turned into invention. Every tragedy forged something new. Saris whispered. They've been through extinction more than once. Varen gestured to the projections. Every species fights to live. But humans, he paused, the light in his chest pulsing. They fight to remember. Each battle becomes story. Each death becomes lesson. Their survival is built from their own nightmares. Tuvin leaned forward. Maybe that's what Elias meant. A reminder of what they are capable of. Larak's eyes stayed fixed on the flickering image of a human soldier helping a wounded enemy from centuries ago. They kill with reason, he murmured, and they save with the same hands. The archivist dimmed the holograms. I'll file your findings under pending classification. The council will want a term soon. But Larak shook his head. Not yet. Not until we understand what drives them. That night, alone in their quarters, Larak couldn't sleep again. He opened the recovered logs, scrolling through the minor statements. Buried between routine details was something strange, a reference code, Project Remnant 9. He accessed the file. Restricted. Federation eyes only. He bypassed the block. The screen filled with red text. Subject, Human Behavioral Anomaly Detected, Sector Theta, 11. Status, Confidential. Summary. Recovered evidence suggests certain human lineages retain neural echoes of ancient conflict states, dormant until triggered by threat to kin or tribe. Testing forbidden. Larak's chest tightened. Neural echoes, he whispered. They don't learn violence, they remember it. Saris appeared at the doorway. She had been awake too. You found something? He turned the screen toward her. Her biolight dimmed as she read. This was hidden from us, she said. The Federation already knew. They tried to bury it, Larak replied. Maybe they were afraid. Tuvin entered, bleary-eyed. Afraid of what? Larak stared out the viewport, at the small blue dot far away in the dark. Afraid that one day, humans might remember everything. The shuttle pierced the clouds of Earth like a blade of light. Larak had seen thousands of worlds, oceans of crystal, jungles made of glass, even moons covered in living mist, but nothing prepared him for this one. Blue and green stretched endlessly below, breathing with life. Every continent seemed alive with memory. Saris stared through the viewport. So this is where it all began. Home of the unpredictable, Tuvin muttered. I already hate it. They descended through rain. Lightning flashed against the hull as they landed near a quiet human settlement, a town built beside forests and rivers, simple yet strangely powerful in its stillness. The moment they stepped outside, the air felt different, heavier, charged. It was as if the planet itself was watching them. Their translator devices picked up the sounds of life. Children laughing, dogs barking, engines humming. No soldiers, no guards, no fear. Yet under the calm surface, there was something else, something ancient. A local liaison greeted them, smiling warmly. Welcome to Earth. You must be from the Federation office. I'm Dr. Mara Levin, cultural anthropologist. You're here for the classification survey, yes? Yes, Larak said carefully. We're studying human behavioral patterns. Mara nodded. Then you've come to the right place. You'll find no shortage of contradictions here. As they followed her through the streets, they passed murals painted on old brick walls, scenes of both war and peace. One showed soldiers in battle. Another, the same soldiers helping rebuild a village. It was beauty and destruction sharing the same brush. They record everything, Saris said softly. That's how we heal, Mara replied. By remembering. Larak exchanged a glance with his team. The phrase echoed Elias Grain's message. A reminder. That night, they stayed in a small inn on the outskirts. Outside, rain fell steadily. Inside, the lights flickered, powered by a grid that hummed with imperfect energy. Larak couldn't sleep. He stepped outside onto the balcony and saw something moving in the forest beyond. A faint light, like a fire. He followed it. Through the wet grass, under whispering trees, he found a clearing. There, a group of humans stood around a fire pit. They weren't soldiers. They were ordinary farmers, teachers, mechanics. But their eyes burned with quiet intensity as they passed around old photographs and read names aloud. "What are they doing?" Saris whispered, having followed him silently. Larek didn't turn. "Remembering they're dead," he said. "But not just mourning. They're learning from them." The humans began singing, a low, steady rhythm that carried through the woods. It wasn't sorrowful. It was powerful, defiant. Every note carried something more than sound, emotion, unity, and something that felt almost dangerous. When one of the humans looked up and saw them, she smiled instead of being afraid. "You can watch," she said kindly. "But don't interrupt. This is our remembrance night." "Why?" Saris asked. "Because forgetting is how wars start again," the woman said, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "We remember so we don't repeat." Later, back at the inn, Saris trembled slightly. "Larek, did you feel it?" When they sang. He nodded. Yes, it wasn't just memory. It was something shared, across time, across blood. A signal passed from one generation to another. Tuvin frowned. "You mean like resonance?" "Exactly," Larek said. "Emotional resonance. Their minds link through grief and purpose. That's what awakens their echo. That's why they change when someone they love is hurt." Saris looked out the window. "So it's not instinct. It's inheritance." The words hung heavy in the air. Back at Federation Command, they had treated humanity as another species to label and contain. But standing on this ancient world, Larek understood the truth. Humanity didn't just evolve. They remembered their evolution. Every fear, every loss, every victory. It was all still here, sleeping under their calm smiles. And if that memory ever truly woke up, Larek whispered to himself, the galaxy won't be ready. The report Larek sent to the Federation was supposed to be confidential. It wasn't. 2 weeks after they left Earth's surface, he received a coded message. Project Reveille authorized. Observation requested. He felt his blood run cold. The Federation was moving faster than he expected. They weren't studying humans anymore. They were experimenting on them. When he confronted the Council liaison, a tall insectoid named Vra, her wings fluttered nervously. "It's harmless," she insisted. "A resonance scan. We're only measuring neural patterns under stress." "On who?" Larek asked. "Volunteers," she said too quickly. "Human volunteers." Larek exchanged glances with Saris and Tuvin. They'd seen what happened when humans were pushed. The thought of someone trying to trigger that response for science made his skin tighten. Still, they were ordered to attend the experiment. The test site was a massive orbital station above Luna, Earth's gray satellite, silent and cold. Dozens of Federation scientists gathered behind glass panels, their instruments ready. In the center chamber stood a single human, a woman named Kara Mendez. She looked ordinary. Brown hair, steady eyes, calm voice. But her heartbeat filled the sensors with strange static. Even before the test began, her readings refused to stabilize. Varen, the crystalline archivist, led the experiment. "We'll expose the subject to emotional stress stimuli," he announced. "Controlled illusions, grief, danger, loss. We will observe what awakens the resonance." The lights dimmed. Kara's vitals spiked as holographic projections surrounded her. Images of destruction, pain, memories she didn't recognize. The scientists murmured notes. Then something changed. The projections began to flicker, breaking pattern. Every screen in the control room pulsed with interference. The energy readings climbed off the scale. "What's happening?" Saris shouted. Varen adjusted controls. "She's resisting the simulation. The neural link is reversing. She's projecting back." Kara opened her eyes. They glowed faintly, not with light, but with emotion so dense it bent the sensors. Her voice was calm, but layered, as if 1,000 echoes spoke with her. "You shouldn't have touched this." The glass cracked. The station lights died. Every translator implant failed at once, plunging the observation deck into a silence so absolute it felt like gravity itself had stopped. Tuvin clutched his chest. "I feel." But he couldn't finish. A wave of pressure rolled through them, not physical, but emotional. Sorrow, anger, pride. The memories of countless generations flooded through every mind on the station. Wars, births, songs, fire, peace. The entire human story burned like a signal across their thoughts. And then it stopped. When the lights returned, Kara was unconscious on the floor. The equipment around her smoked and sparked. Varen's voice trembled. Her brainwaves, synchronized with every human on the planet for 8 seconds. Saris whispered, 8 seconds, and it reached the whole world? Larek turned to the viewport. Earth glowed faintly below, like a living heart beating in the dark. No, he said, not just the world. I think everyone in orbit felt it too. Across the station, humans were waking up. Engineers, medics, janitors, each of them whispering fragments of the same dream. A battlefield they'd never seen. A song they'd never learned. A fire that wouldn't die. That night, emergency transmissions flooded Federation channels. Human colonies across the sectors reported strange phenomena, synchronized dreams, emotional surges, sudden bursts of courage, or tears without reason. One report stood out. A small mining crew on Mars claimed their sensors caught a heartbeat signal pulsing from Earth, rhythmic, powerful, impossible. Varen turned to Larek, fear refracting through his crystal form. You said humans remember. What if they don't just remember their past? What if they remember each other? Larek stared at the blue planet below, pulsing like a star. Then the Federation didn't start a test, he said quietly. They started an awakening. It began as a whisper in the data, tiny distortions in communication lines, glitches in interstellar relays. Scientists blamed solar storms, until the signals started forming patterns. Every pattern was the same. A rhythm, a pulse, like a heartbeat echoing across the void. At first, only human ships picked it up. Then alien vessels too. The pulse came from Earth, but it didn't stop there. It moved outward, faster than any transmission known. It wasn't radio, or gravity, or light. It was emotion. Larek and his team were recalled to the Federation headquarters on Neural Prime. The council chamber, once calm and proud, now buzzed with fear. Hundreds of species shouted over each other, their voices clashing like storms. The humans have weaponized telepathy. It's contagion, emotional infection. Shut down the Sol system. The president's voice boomed above the noise. Silence. When the room fell quiet, Larek stepped forward. It's not a weapon, he said. It's resonance. We triggered it. The president glared at him, translucent form trembling. Explain yourself, investigator. Larek took a slow breath. The test awakened something buried inside their species. A shared memory network, emotional, not technological. Every human carries a fragment of it. When one of them feels deeply enough, the others listen. That's impossible, hissed a reptilian general. No species can do that without neural links. Tuvin replied softly, they don't need them. They are the link. Saris activated a hologram showing waves of energy rippling outward from Earth. Every heartbeat on that planet adds to the frequency. It's not chaos. It's harmony. The council erupted again. Harmony? It's spreading to other worlds. Indeed, reports confirmed it. Alien citizens who lived among humans began showing symptoms. Nightmares. Tears. Unexplained empathy. Even aggression faded in conflict zones near human colonies. Whole armies stopped fighting for reasons no one could explain. They're changing the galaxy, Saris whispered. Not changing, Larek said. Reminding. The word hung in the air. 3 days later, Larek's team stood at the observation deck of the orbital research station. From here, they could see the Sol system glowing faintly in the dark, every planet connected by invisible threads. They're calling it the memory field, Saris said. It's reached 20 light minutes beyond Earth. Tuvin frowned. And what happens when it reaches Federation space? Larek didn't answer. That night, the field expanded again. On dozens of worlds, strange phenomena appeared. Children of alien races began drawing Earth's landscapes they'd never seen. Warriors who once boasted of conquest broke down in tears, overwhelmed by emotions they couldn't name. Entire planets fell silent for hours, not in fear, but reflection. For the first time in history, the galaxy was quiet. On Earth, Kara Mendez, the woman from the test, woke from her coma. Her eyes opened, calm and clear. Doctors surrounded her, but she looked straight past them, as if seeing through the walls and into the stars themselves. Can you hear it? She whispered. They all can now. At that same moment, every Federation sensor across 1,000 systems went dark, overloaded by the resonance wave. And then, as quickly as it came, the interference stopped. The reading stabilized. But something had changed. Billions across the stars reported the same dream. A human voice saying only one phrase. We remember. When the council reconvened, fear filled every corner of the chamber. We must quarantine the humans, shouted one delegate. Seal their system before the effect spreads. But another, a smaller voice from the aquatic representative of the Tlen species, spoke softly. For the first time, my people slept without fear last night. If that's their contagion, maybe we need it. The room fell silent. Larek stood, exhausted but resolute. You can't contain them. Humanity doesn't conquer with weapons. They conquer with memory. With connection. They reminded the galaxy what it means to feel. The president stared at him for a long time. And what do we call that? Larek smiled faintly. You can't name it. You can only feel it. Outside, the stars pulsed once more, faint, but alive. It wasn't a signal anymore. It was a song. The galaxy didn't end in fire. It ended in silence, the kind that comes before understanding. Weeks passed after the resonance wave. No wars. No riots. No trade disputes. Just quiet reflection from 1,000 worlds that suddenly felt something they didn't have words for. On Neural Prime, the Federation Council met once more. Every species was present, but this time there was no shouting. No fear. Only questions they couldn't answer. Larek stood before them, no longer trembling, no longer afraid of his own report. He looked older now, not in years, but in truth. He had seen something that statistics could never measure. President Yulos, the translucent being who once ruled with precision and logic, spoke softly. The resonance persists. We cannot contain it. Explain, investigator, what have we unleashed? Larek took a deep breath. You haven't unleashed anything, he said. You've awakened what was already there. Holograms filled the chamber, showing images collected from across the galaxy. An insectoid queen teaching her hatchlings to sing human songs. A reptilian warlord laying down his blade, carving peace treaties instead of victims. A silicon-based species learning laughter for the first time. All inspired by the same quiet heartbeat that began on one small blue planet. Sarah stepped forward, her voice steady. Humans don't spread power. They spread meaning. Every memory they share becomes a bridge, Tuvan added. And every bridge changes whoever crosses it. The chamber stayed silent. Then the aquatic delegate, the same one who had once defended humanity, spoke again. I dreamt last night, she said. I saw oceans I've never swum in. I saw a child's hand reaching for mine. It wasn't mine, but it felt real. Is that what it means to be human? Larek nodded. That's what it means to remember. The president's form flickered. Then what do we call them now? The connectors? The awakeners? The harmonics? Larek smiled faintly, the same way Elias Grain had smiled that day at the outpost. No, none of those words fit. He placed his hand on the central console and projected the final entry of his report. For classification purposes, humanity cannot be defined by aggression, adaptation, or evolution. They are more than survival. They are a reflection, a living echo of everything the galaxy once forgot. He looked up at the council, his biolight glowing brighter than ever before. They are what happens when memory learns compassion. They are not a species to be labeled. They are the reminder of who we all were, and who we can still be. When he finished, no one spoke. Even the president bowed his translucent head. The Federation seal shimmered behind them, and for the first time in recorded history, it felt small compared to what stood beyond it. Days later, Larek resigned from his post. He left Neural Prime quietly, taking a transport toward the Sol system. No escorts. No orders. Just a need to see that world again, the one that changed everything. When he landed on Earth, the sky was golden. Children played in the rain, and laughter echoed through the streets. In that moment, he realized the resonance hadn't ended. It had simply become life. He walked through a park and saw a familiar face sitting on a bench, Elias Grain. Older now, grayer, but unmistakably human. The man looked up and smiled. You came back. Larek nodded. We finally understand. Elias chuckled. No, you don't. Not yet. But you're learning. The two sat in silence for a while, watching the sunset wash the world in amber light. Then Elias spoke again, softly. Do you know what we call that resonance of yours? Larek tilted his head. No. What? Elias smiled faintly, eyes on the horizon. Hope. The word lingered in the air, simple, small, but heavier than stars. As night fell, the first stars appeared, pulsing gently like they were breathing. And somewhere, across the infinite dark, 1,000 species felt it too, that shared rhythm, that soft human heartbeat echoing between galaxies. It wasn't domination. It wasn't fear. It was the quiet victory of memory and mercy intertwined. Larek closed his eyes and whispered into the wind. The report no one wanted to file was the truth no one dared to believe. And as the stars shimmered like living embers above the blue world, one thought resonated through the galaxy, across every mind and every heart that could still feel. Humanity, the light that could never be named,